Hey, I'm Chase, and this is All Things Around. Today we're looking at the Aeromat PNY Chronograph. Now, Aromat reached out to me and asked me if I would like to do a review on this watch, and I was like, hell yeah, I would. Send me that watch, so that's exactly what they did. Now, in no way am I going to give you just one skewed opinion. I'm going to give you the pros, the cons, the positives, the negatives, everything about this watch. So if you find that interesting, let's just flip the camera around, hop right into the review. And this is how the watch comes. It came in a basic cardboard box. However, this is the case that it comes in. It is sort of like a small traveling case, which is nice if this is your only watch or you want to bring an additional watch with you while wearing something like this chronograph. Now, this is the Aeromat PNY or Paris, New York. This is supposed to be a post-World War II rendition of the aviation boom. So let's open it up and actually see what it looks like. I'm extremely happy with the simplistic design of this. Now, this was sent to me by Aromat, and I'm going to give you my honest opinion on the watch. Now, I did an unboxing video, however, I didn't post that video because I was there were some pros and cons when first having this watch, and I wanted to give it at least some time on the wrist before I really made a judgment call. Now, let's take it out and take a quick look around the watch itself. We'll do some measurements. Okay, so first, right up front, inside of this is a Seiko VK 64 Meca-quartz movement. Now, the one thing I really like about this watch is you notice it does not have a ticking second hand. The one thing that drives me nuts about some of the Meca-quartz movements is it gives you the feel of a automatic watch at 5 ticks a second. Once you hit the chronograph function, that center second counting hand, has a 5 beat per second tick, so it gives you the illusion of a mechanical watch, but normally there's a sub-dial with a standard second hand. There's no sub-dial here. Instead, at the 6 o'clock position is a date, at the 3 o'clock position is a 24-hour time, and at the 9 o'clock position is a 60-minute counter. So this is minus the second hand, which is nice because it's not immediately observed that it's a quartz watch. In fact, you don't know at all that it's a quartz watch unless you knew this watch, period. But this is a quartz watch, but it does offer the Meca-quartz movement. Now you can see around the bezel, it does say 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 11, and then the arrow for 12. This is slightly off-centered. Let me go ahead and fix that. Right there. Now here is where I come to the first sort of groan about this watch. The bezel is misaligned. Now this is not the first watch that has been sent to me with a misaligned bezel, and it's just driving me nuts because if I can put together my own watch, the watch that was sent to me by DIY, and I was able to align that bezel perfectly myself, why can't they do it in the factory? So the bezel itself, that is sort of my first groan. Overall, this is a positive review, but I am going to give you the negatives as we go about. Now, the case finishing on this is a brushed, sort of horizontal brushing. It does offer some polishing on the corners. Depressing, again, is the fact that it has just a press clasp. Now, this itself is sort of fading out of style. This watch is about $295. There's no reason why this can't have a proper milled clasp. This does have 3 levels of micro adjustment here and push pins in the bracelet. It could have had screw links. Push pins to me are not really that big of deal, but they could have done a little bit better on that. This does offer 100 meters of water resistance, which is pretty good, and it does not have screw down pushers. So it does offer 100 meters of water resistance, but a lot of times when it offers 100 meters of water resistance, the pushers are screw. These are actually not screw. These are just push down. Now, the functions of the chronograph function just as they should, and so does the date function. Again, it is a Seiko movement. Seiko movements are extremely robust. Now here we are just a little closer to the dial so you can see the details. The subdials are done extremely well, at least I feel like they're done extremely well. The subdued lines that circle the subdials are extremely crisp, and so is the printing on them. One of the issues I had with a prior chronograph was the fact that those sort of indented lines around the subdials are very hard to print on, and a lot of watches have faded printing. These have no faded printing at all. They're extremely crisp and clear. Now I really like the look of this watch. I really like the PNY because it gives you sort of a vintage aesthetic of the chronograph. If you look around the lume markers around the dial, they are sort of a custard color to include in the subdials and the hands. The overall aesthetic of this watch is more vintage, which is nice. I also like the fact that they offer a 24-hour chapter ring in case you want to use this as an additional time zone, so you can have 2 time zones. This is not a GMT watch, but when you offer little things like that, it sort of gives you the ability to regulate a second time zone. Now looking at the case back, I really like the fact, again, they kept it very classy, very minimal. 100 meters of water resistance, Japanese movement, all stainless steel. I like that they didn't go overboard on any designs on the back. It's just simple, straightforward, their logo, their name with a bead blasted background. Now they also offer solid end links, which at a price point around $300, you'd expect them to anyway. Now to me, when looking at watches and reviewing watches, details really matter. I look at everything that comes down to the watch itself. I like the fact that they have, again, a laser etched logo on that crown. I like the fact they have some chamfered edging that's high polished to break up that brushing. I mean, overall, they did a really good job. And this watch is not thick at all. It's under 13 millimeters. I mean, it could be thinner because they're using the Seiko Meca-quartz movement and it's not an automatic, but 13 millimeters is not overbearing at all, and you really don't feel it on the wrist. Overall, I'm extremely happy with the design of the watch, and I'm extremely happy that they use something like the Meca-quartz movement when going towards a quartz style movement, right? You don't have to go quartz, but if you go quartz, I'm glad they used something like the Seiko VK 64 Meca-quartz minus the subdial second hand. That really actually makes me happy because a lot of people, you know, like quartz movements or you hate quartz movements. So I'm glad that they decided to leave that second hand out. I'll do a chronograph head-to-head coming up in the future, and I'll show you different chronograph movements, automatic and different Seiko VK63, VK64, Meca-quartz movements, and I'll put them head to head. Talk about sizing of this watch and general overall things that are good and bad. Now the case size of this watch is 42 millimeters in diameter, so that's a little large for some people. This is on my 7 and just over a 1/4 inch wrist. The lug size though is just under 49, so it doesn't overwhelm the wrist presence. A lot of times when you have watches that are around 40 millimeters or 42 millimeters or 41 millimeters, the lug size will be over 50, even 51 or 52, and it just seems a little large on the wrist. This is under 50, so it's nice that it has that sort of smaller presence on the wrist, even though it has a larger case diameter. Now the lug size right here is 20 millimeters, which is nice because you can fit any strap on it, which I sort of would recommend in the future. One of the downsides of this watch is the fact that it does have a press clasp. To me, that's just, it's not necessarily totally uncalled for, but if you have a $300 watch that has a Meca-quartz movement in it, not an automatic watch, and this does not offer a sapphire crystal, everything that I was able to find is a mineral crystal coated in sapphire, so it is more scratch resistant, but $10 more for a piece of sapphire would have made it a lot higher on my list. That press clasp, to me, again, is just uncalled for. It does have 3 micro adjustments, so it's nice that it will sort of micro adjust better to the wrist. Push pins really are not a big deal for me, but the actual overall shape and sort of design of the bracelet is very nice. To the eye, it does give it that nice vintage aesthetic. It does give it sort of an older feel. It's extremely comfortable also on the wrist. And again, the solid end links also are a pro. Now, one of the things that, again, that I really like about this watch is the presence on the wrist. It's exactly what you need in an everyday watch. It offers a chronograph function if you want a chronograph function. It's not automatic, so if you do not want to wear it every single day, you don't have to set everything again. You don't have to go back through and set the date. You don't have to go through and rewind the watch. It does give you the luxury, if you can say luxury, of having something like a quartz movement that you don't have to worry about, but it does give you the look of an automatic watch because you don't have that ticking secondhand subdial. That is really huge to me, not having that subdial. I don't see a lot of companies really doing that except Aeromat here. Now, another thing that I really do not like, and I'll show you right here, is the bezel. The bezel's fine. It seems to be maybe 120 click, but right here, I'm going to show you up close. Click, click, does not line up. One of the things that I really do not like. And also the bezel finishing. I'm not really sure what the bezel is made of. I don't really know if it's aluminum. I know it's not ceramic because you can see right there between the 2 and 3. I just rubbed my nail across it to sort of see what it was, and it scratched immediately. So not really sure what it does. It feels like a softer sort of style paint. Maybe it's just the overall aesthetic that they were going for, sort of like more of a duller sheen than a bright, ceramic style bezel. But again, when you look at ceramic bezels are not very expensive at all. So what are my total complete thoughts of this watch? Generally, I like the look of the watch. I really like the look of the watch. I like the look that it has a sort of 1950s and 60s chronograph vibe. I like that vibe. I like the fact that it doesn't sit too high on the wrist. I like the fact that it is a 42 millimeter, but has a smaller footprint on the wrist with a lug to lug of under 50. So that's also nice. So you get the larger dial face without the larger watch case. That to me is also very nice. I like the fact that it does not have a second hand subdial, because I don't like the ticking of quartz watches. That's just me. I do not like it. I like the fact that it does offer the 24-hour chapter ring along the inside of the watch. So you can set a 24-hour function. You can have a second time zone. I like the fact that the face of the watch is done very well, matte black with the custard style lume, again, giving it that vintage appeal. I like the case finishing. I like the fact that it's horizontal brushing with those high polished edges. That's very nice. But no sapphire crystal, bezel misalignment, and a press clasp. So if I was to rate this 1 out of 10, 10 being the best, let's just say 10 is Rolex, let's just say 1 is, I don't know, the $25 automatic watch from Amazon. Let's just throw that out there. Search cheapest automatic watch on Amazon. It's like 30 bucks. Let's just take those two and put them right next to each other. This is probably a 7. In no way is it close to being high end, but in no way is it close to being the cheapest watch in the world. I think the right price point for this watch is not $295. They do offer one with a leather strap, a sort of distressed leather strap that is $275. I think that's still a little too pricey. I would wait for maybe a discount code or something like that. I'd wait for it to be maybe around $225. I think that is the sweet spot for this watch. Would I recommend buying it? Yes, if you like the vintage aesthetic of a watch, this is going to be good for you. Now, I say that $295 may seem a little expensive. However, remember, if you go out and you buy a Seiko SKX 007 right now that they don't make anymore, that's going to cost you like $400, right? And those bezels are always misaligned. And it does have an automatic movement. However, you can't hack or hand wind it. The bracelets on a lot of those Seikos are hollow bracelets. They're rolled bracelets. This is a solid bracelet. All the links are solid end links instead of hollow end links. So it depends on what you want to spend your money on. Would I spend $295 on this watch if I walked into a jeweler and saw it right next to all the Citizens, the Bulivas, and everything like that? Yeah, sure, of course I would. But it's hard when it comes to internet shopping to spend that kind of money because you have, instead of 10 options, you have 300 options. So my sweet price point on this watch to recommend it would be around $225, $250, $275 for the one with the leather band is not terrible. $20 more and you get a steel band. That is what I would get. I would get the steel bracelet one if you are going to buy this watch, and then you can replace it with any 20 millimeter distressed leather band that you want. You can get a higher quality one. It's going to change the overall aesthetic, just like if you guys have seen my Pagani design Daytona style. I changed the strap, or I changed the bracelet to a strap, and it completely gave me a different watch. Those are just my 2 cents. Now, a quick channel update before we end this video. Right now, I am building a watch strap collection. Now, you may say, hey, Chase, didn't Teddy Baltazar do that? I'm like, yeah, he did, except the difference between him and me is the fact that I'm building the watch straps myself. I'm in no way a channel of a couple 100,000 subscribers. Maybe one day I will, but again, it was really disappointing when I did that review. I'll leave the review right here where I reviewed his Bark and Jack and a cheap Chinese version of a distressed leather strap. And you know what? Teddy was okay. However, I was really disappointed the fact that someone who has a passion for watches doesn't tell you anything about the watch strap. And it really started to make me think to myself, well, I want to build my own watch strap. I'm going to source out my own leather. I'm going to do everything that I need to do. I'm going to build them myself. My plan is, hopefully, if you guys are finding that interesting, I'm going to release the build video, hopefully, for those watch straps, at least one of the watch straps. Now, I've been going back and forth, different types of leather, Horween leather, sheepskin leather, all these different types of leather. I'm building a few watch straps to decide exactly what I want. Now, hopefully the build video for that watch strap that I plan on releasing will be released next week. So make sure to hit that notification bell. Now, if you like videos and videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment on the content you guys would like to see on this channel. I have a lot of videos coming up in the future. I'll be hitting the pool this weekend, and hopefully next week I'll be releasing that how dive watches work underwater and why you would use a dive watch underwater. So hit that notification bell again so you guys can be notified when I drop that next video. Till next time.